Today we've got another lens comparison for you today. The very popular, well-known Sony 55mm F1.8 Zeiss and the much cheaper Samyang 45mm F1.8. We're going to break these two down so that you can decide which one's going to be best for you. Let's go! It's a showdown between the Sony 55mm F1.8 Zeiss and the Samyang 45mm F1.8. Today we're breaking these two lenses down to figure out which one's going to be best for you, and we're doing that in terms of size, build, performance, and value. Let's jump into size. So when it comes to size, both of these lenses are completely reasonable, with the edge going to the Samyang, which is both smaller and weighs quite a bit less than the Sony. They're both a good size and weight for traveling as well as gimbal work. If it's ultimate portability you're looking for, the Samyang is going to win the size category. Next we'll have a look at the build and features of these two lenses. For the price, the Samyang actually has pretty decent build quality. They both come with lens hoods, and the Samyang does include a semi-hard case, where the Sony has the classic leather pouch. Neither of these lenses have any buttons or switches, and they're not image stabilized. Both of them have 49mm filter threads, as well as a minimum focus distance of around 1.5 feet. A metal mount is also shared between these two, and unfortunately, no little rubber gasket for additional weather sealing. Comparing the build quality between the two, the Samyang is decent for the money, but ultimately, the Sony has better quality materials, and therefore, better build. Okay, so the real question is, how do these two compare when it comes to performance? And there definitely is some differences. When it comes to autofocus, the 55 Zeiss is exactly what you'd expect. It's very good, it's very fast and accurate. It's not the world's fastest autofocus, but whether you're taking pictures or video, it's going to do its job well. I'll note that it also does suffer from a little bit of focus breathing. Face tracking as well as human and animal eye autofocus work great. In general, it's exactly what you'd expect for a lens of this price. The Samyang, just like the Sony, is completely internally focusing and basically completely silent, making both of these lenses great for video work. The Sony's autofocus is a bit quicker, more accurate, and more reliable, I find, but the Samyang is no slouch in this case. It's quite impressive given its price, even in difficult and low light. To keep this video reasonable, I'm not going to go into crazy depths about the performance of these two lenses. I'll tell you in terms of sharpness that the Sony is sharper, and if you do want to see a full in-depth review of either of these lenses, I cover all of these things in detail, so make sure you check those out. The Samyang is quite a sharp lens, but you will notice the difference when it comes to the Sony, especially when you get into the corners. It just can't compare. When it comes to bokeh, they both have 9-bladed aperture, capable of producing beautiful, smooth, creamy backgrounds. But in terms of quality, the edge again is going to go to the Sony. Ultimately, it's really going to be personal preference, and here's some photos that I've taken with both of these lenses so that you can see what they can do. So when it comes to video shooting in general, yeah, the Sony's definitely going to have the advantage here. And unfortunately, Samyang is really not known for their reliability in video. And if you are using a Samyang lens, definitely make sure you have the latest firmware installed, as it can make a pretty big difference. The 45mm is one of the better focusing lenses from Samyang that I find, but it's just not quite there compared to the Sony. So there is a little bit of a focal length difference between these two lenses, and is that going to impact your decision on one of these two? Let's see what that looks like. Here's the Samyang at 45mm, and here's what the Sony looks like at 55. You can also use these lenses on your crop sensor camera, and you will get a crop factor of 1.5 times, meaning that your 45 is going to become 67.5 and your 55 is going to become 82.5. Essentially, neither of these lenses at that point are going to be considered standard. They're going to be more like a telephoto lens. So keep in mind that you can always crop in with a 45mm, but you can't go backwards with a 55. So looking at the performance of these two as a whole, they're both great performers, especially considering the price of the Samyang, but the edge is going to go to the Sony. So when it comes to value, the Samyang or the Rokinon, depending on where you're from, can be found for about $300 to $400 US. And for that price, it has phenomenal value. Sure, the Sony's an incredible lens, but it does come at a price, usually between $900 and $1,000. So is that massive price difference really worth it? Well, that's up to you to decide. If you're on a budget and you're looking for the best lens for the price, you might have seen my other video as well comparing the 45 to the 50 1.8, and in that case, of course, the 45 is going to be your better bet. If money's not really an issue and you're looking for the best of the best, I can fully recommend the Sony to you. But in terms of value, the Samyang is really hard to beat, and in my opinion wins this category. Okay, so wrapping up, I think both of these lenses are really going to serve you well depending on what you need. If you need the best, go with native, go with the Sony. If you are on a budget or you don't want to spend $1 million, this Samyang is going to be a great option for you. It's inexpensive, it's a lot lighter than the Sony, and yeah, there are a few things you're going to have to sacrifice in terms of performance, but all around it's also a great lens with tons of value. As usual, here's my personal pros and cons for both of these lenses. Okay, so there's a quick comparison between these two lenses, and if you want to see a more in-depth review on either of these, check out my individual reviews on each. I hope this video helped you out, guys. I hope you liked it, and if you enjoyed it, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button, and drop your questions and comments down below. If you want to pick either of these lenses up, I'll leave affiliate links in the description for you as well, and like always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out there and take some more pictures. See you in the next one.